Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Timmins, James Bay.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. It's interesting today to watch our Conservative colleagues suddenly showing their great love for unions. I've just seen ridicule and attack on organized labour for the last 8 years from that lot. To suggest that they're friends of unions is almost as ridiculous as saying that their legislation was always something that they're concerned about meeting the standards of the Constitution. This was legislation brought in by Peter MacKay, the former Justice Minister, who had more recalls than the Ford Pinto. They believe that they can use this House and legislation to ignore the Constitution, to override privacy rights, to ignore provincial legislation just so that they can get at their political enemies, the big strawmen that they've created, you know, the big Indian chiefs, big bad union bosses, radical environmentalists. You hear the troika of blither from them consistently about their straw enemies. But the fact that they would use legislation that is not charter compliant in an attempt to attack their enemies, I believe, has actually debased this House, because whether the new government brought this legislation ended it, or it was ended in the courts, it would still be ended one way or the other, just like so much more of their legislation that they brought in that they knew was not charter compliant, that they knew overstepped their bounds, and debased the role of Parliament, which is to create credible legislation. So I'd like to ask my honourable colleague what he thinks it is in the pathology of the Conservative mind that they believe that they can ignore these clear jurisdictional divides that's supposed to keep government in check.